Cool.
We're going to go slow. We're here with Dan Farah, Hollywood producer, began your career as an assistant in ICM, made a film, very, very, very famous film, Ready Player One, with a very famous guy, Steven Spielberg. So you're like a success in Hollywood, and then you make one of the best documentaries of all time, #1 doc on Prime.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
To distill it, because I've been following the sort of UAP, UFO, we're not alone thing. As a journalist, I was a skeptic, and let's put some rigor into the study. And what I had a problem with, and this is why I like your film so much, what I had a problem with is not the facts,
But then the third overseer, he doesn't even know the project exists. Then you jump forward to 50, 60 years, and the people who were in the elected positions of government oversight, right? They have absolutely no idea any of this even exists or did exist, right? And so he breaks this down, and the Rubio interview was a special one for me because, he really understood the full picture better than any elected official at the time. He was the vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He and the rest of the committee had learned about the reality of the situation. They learned the extent of the cover-up.
They signed agreements that they would face jail time, or in some cases, some people claim it would cost them their lives if they spoke out about these things.
He really wanted to inform the public in the best way he could. And so the tone of his interview with me, it was very much like, let me tell you how the world works.
Even presidents have often been operating on a need-to-know basis. That's certainly true from a historic standpoint. The rationale, the justification was, the president shouldn't know about these things because that way the president always has deniability. All they need is a nod in this direction or in that direction. But that begins to ramp out of control. Frankly, I don't even know if the president would know who to ask. You could go to the director of the CIA, nowadays the director of national intelligence, and ask them. And even that person may not know.
It's like, all right, kid, let me tell you how the world works. And he's just very matter of fact. And he breaks down how, the truth is not only being kept from the public and Congress, but from sitting presidents. And he, as you mentioned earlier, he breaks down as how these career bureaucrats can sit there in these positions of power for 20, 30 years within CIA or Department of Energy or the Air Force. They're unelected bureaucrats, and they can just gatekeep information, and they have this attitude of, well, we can just wait out any administration. So that's what's happening right now. Even following President Trump's directive, a lot of these federal agencies, they're not turning over the evidence they have, or they're just.
There's a show that's come out. It's called The Age of Disclosure.
Yeah.
Okay, I know everyone probably, right? Everyone asks you about it?
Sure.
It's a new documentary. We had repeated instances of something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities. It's not ours, and presidents operate on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah.
Okay, that is...
So a couple points on it. First of all, I'm not disavowing that. It was an interview that was done almost maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I was in the Senate.
Right.
So it wasn't recent. The second point I would make, I was describing the allegations that people have come forward with. I had people that came forward to us. Some of these people were Navy pilots, admirals, generals, whatever, that would come forward and say, that there were programs in the U.S. government that not even presidents were made aware of. So I was describing what people had said to me, not things that I have firsthand knowledge of in that regard. A little bit of selective editing, but it's okay because, you're trying to sell a show there. But
And saying, oh, we don't know what you're talking about. There's no there.
Yeah, I liked one of your things, which is the Navy, and I've interviewed a couple of the pilots, but the Navy started having, we're having our pilots seeing these things, we're reporting them, we're recording them.
The controller told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
They're coming to bases, et cetera, et cetera. And the Air Force, because it's part of the league, are like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. We're not seeing any of that stuff. And the Navy has more and more and more. Various different groups are seeing more and more. And the Air Force is saying, oh, I have nothing to see here.
And it's been that way for a long time. So one of the pieces of evidence that was actually released just last week, this past Friday, 4 days ago, was a memo from 1948, internal memo from the U.S. Navy, where the commander of all naval operations was essentially instructing the entire naval force to be on the lookout for UAP because there was an increase in flying saucer sightings at the time. And in the memo, it says that the head of naval operations is instructing everyone to report what they see, not up the naval chain of command, but to the Air Force. Right. And so you can just see how like the system was put in place where like, hey, we're controlling this situation. We'll message out to all the other branches of the military. We've got this, you know, and then they can get the information and they can lock it down.
So there seems to be like a sort of fight where some people are saying, hey, look, these UAPs exist. Now, let's get back to that. When we talk about this stuff in the legacy program, this isn't like rumor, myth, and innuendo. These are the top government officials saying, yes, this exists, and yes, we have seen proof that this exists.